And sorry for the minor delay there. And how would you like to do the first part of the election of the chairperson, Mr. Green?
For purposes tonight, Gary, please step up and be chairman. I'm not sure where to go with this or how to go with it, but I've been having some thoughts, and I had some conversations with Dr. Link about when I realized Gary's name wasn't there. I took the list and I started to go through it, and it's like we have 6 committees and 8 people, and it's hard to give everybody like an equal opportunity, so to speak, to be a chairperson or a co-chairperson or whatever. And so what we were talking about doing is the possibility of splitting up a committee or two, like buildings and grounds and technology, maybe make that 2 committees, and get to the point where there are 8 committees. It won't take any longer to do it. This way everybody can be a chairperson, everybody can be a co-chairperson, everybody can have an opportunity to intermingle. The administrator would contact the chairperson and the co-chairperson before the meeting, lay out the agenda for them, say, okay, here's what we'd like to do. You have any input in that? The 2 people can then give feedback. I would also put another illness on some of the board members and say, if you have something, don't wait till the meeting and bring it up as a surprise. If you have something, call Gail and say, Gail, Finance Committee's coming up and I'm concerned about this or such. Can you make sure that that's on the agenda so we get to address things like that? Or we can let it like it is and, the chips fall where they may. But it seems to me like if we have 2 people involved in every committee, it's going to give the board members a little bit more opportunity to interact with administrators and kind of be involved in that area. So I'll open it up for thoughts, ideas.
Whatever.
Sounds fine.
You okay? Okay. I'll try and have something together for the February meeting, and then we can approve it. We'll still probably go with the scenario, the 4 big ones will meet on a regular basis. Some of the other ones, we'll meet every 2nd or 3rd month or whatever they are, and we'll go from there. Okay. So with that in mind, new chairperson, Mr. Bernard, it's all yours.
Then I will open the meeting and I will immediately go to Building and Grounds. Mr. Mann, you're up.
Thank you very much. So the first thing on the agenda is to extend the contract with NRG. This is a contract that Greg had started and just going to continue. It's to upgrade all our software. Anything that's above what Matt Stevens can perform. He doesn't have the software to do the upgrades. It also covers any equipment upgrades that we would have to do. Matt would still be doing his everyday work. So everyday breakdowns that he can perform, he's still going to be performing. The contract's pretty much just anything outside of his scope of work. The second one,
Do you need that to be approved for motion for the agenda for Monday?
Monday night.
Sorry.
That's okay. So we're trying to remember how I usually do this. Do the board members present tonight support this going to the monthly board meeting?
Sure.
Yes, please. Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
next one. So then the next one is to authorize 2 classes for Matt Stevens to continue to get his water license. So when I transferred into Greg's position, that opened up a person to have a water license. We need 2 people in the district. So then these would be his first 2 classes. He would need 3, and then to pass all 3 to get his water license.
Are you the other member of the 2 people, or is there another?
No, Mark Huffman has his license. Yes.
Thank you.
Does he have 3? He finished?
Mark is licensed.
And
Yep.
then you'll schedule Matt again later
Yep.
on when that's available?
Well, these are the first 2. The first one already starts in March.
Oh, okay.
The second one is an online class, so we have him listed into that one. He can do that one at any time. The third one is not until September.
Okay.
The benefit is the hypochlorite class, which is the one that's online, is the harder of the 2. Once he feels comfortable, we can schedule him to take the tests, and if he passes them, he doesn't have to go to that 3rd class.
Oh, all right.
Yeah.
Okay. So you're gonna schedule him?
Yep, we made sure we got the harder of the 2 scheduled, so if he feels comfortable, he can go take the test. It's the same amount if you take 1 test or all 3. You're paying to sit in on the test.
Okay, so this is for 3 tests. Okay,
Yep.
thank you.
So that was more of an informative piece. This is already built into that group's contract and also already built into the Buildings and Grounds budget.
Yep. So now the third one, so we had a survey done, and one of the things that they found was not everybody's wearing their IDs in a visible spot. So one of the things that we came up with is, so instead of having the key fobs that everyone carries around, it will be your school ID and your key fob all in one. So if you don't have this, you can't get into the school, and vice versa. If you get into the school, you have your picture ID. Now, we're going to try for the initial to use the PCCD grant. But what we've been talking about is every year we get new picture IDs. It would be too costly for us to do new fobs with a picture ID every single year. So what we were talking about is maybe every 5 years. So now 5 years down the road, we might not have that grant money. So we're kind of looking to you guys to say that's something we'd want to continue, or do we just want to stay with the fobs and the picture IDs?
So if we do the picture ID and the fobs now, unless everybody changes and gets old like I am in 5 years, we may not have to do everybody or have to do any. I mean, it depends on if that new people come in.
Correct.
Well, every 5th year, we would look to update everybody.
Right.
And then in between, we sort of, turnover our people that we hire to replace people that are leaving. This was, as Mr. Mann said, this was a strong recommendation from our most recent vulnerability study with the visibility of them, as well as so what the other thing that we're looking to do as part of the PCCD grant, Dr. Stoker and Ms. Steckel, her administrative assistant, are researching lanyards, breakaway lanyards, kind of like Eric has right now with the sleeves that the IDs go in. And we're hopeful that we can fund all of that through the PCCD grant, which I think is one of the, I looked at Dr. Stoker, but I think that's one of the tier 1 kind of ID type action items.
And these are prepared and done then by the security company that does the fobs, or,
No, these would actually be done in-house.
oh, in-house? Oh, that's even better yet, okay.
But then, like we were saying, so now 5 years from now, there's a good chance that it would have to come out of our budget. It wouldn't be covered under a grant unless there's a grant available. That's why we were coming to you guys, because, like I said, it might not be covered in 5 years.
There's nothing we really have to worry about putting in the budget at this time.
Chris, do you have an estimated cost?
I do, this year it would be about $1,800.
And what does it cost for the fobs?
The fobs are more expensive, but I have fobs because we bought a bulk when they started using them. Now, the fobs I wouldn't throw those away, those can also still be used. So we were saying maybe coaches and people that aren't here during the day, that we could still use fobs for.
So where do the teachers currently have their badges?
They're often worn either on a lanyard or on a clip like this. It could be anywhere from shoulder height to waist to occasionally down on a boot. So we're looking to standardize that process.
I like that idea.
One of the other things that we're exploring, so currently our school photos for students and staff are taken by Life Touch. So every year when they take pictures of all the employees, we get a zip file of all of those photos and what we're looking to do. And we actually, right now, it looks like our current ID printer could also print on the integrated badges with the fob technology built right in, where we're looking to see if we can work with Life Touch to make sure we get those in a format that we can then actually print them ourselves. And then if anybody shows up in between photo days, currently right now, Mr. Wanamaker out front takes a picture of them and then we can print it. So we're looking to avoid having to dedicate, massive amount of times of one of our employees just to take pictures.
Timeframe when this will happen?
Well, we're currently in the process of applying for the grant, which has to be submitted by the end of February, I believe.
Yes.
And then we'll hear in April if we are a recipient of the grant. And then from there, really it's just purchasing the cards. We have the printer. I would probably recommend that we wait until picture day of next year to kind of roll it out so we can have Life Touch take the pictures, but we can work through those to kind of the minutia of that process.
And our current doors have what we would be looking to purchase, the pictures. We don't have to change any of that
No.
technology, it's just changing how we get in.
Yep, yeah, it's to change from, this is a new card, the new style that we would be going with. And then your picture would actually be on the front of this, from the black fobs that everyone has. So it would just be a card compared to a coin.
And then the only other question I have, and I'm just asking at a safety and security level. By asking our teachers to wear lanyards, is there any concern that a student will come and accidentally pull them and injure the employee
Do you have a
or?
breakaway?
Their breakaway.
Yeah.
So then if they're breakaway, is there the potential that a student comes and steals them and gets into places that they're not supposed to?
So yes, right? We can't control every single variable. Just like right now, if somebody were to, misplace one of their fobs, and a student knows that those fobs are to access the building, that could happen. Luckily, during unoccupied times of our buildings, or occasionally occupied if you're in your office and step out when it's been alarmed, if there is motion in the buildings, it triggers the alarm to our security company, which also triggers calls to us. If we don't answer that call in a given amount of time, it also goes to the local police department.
I'm good as long as we've all thought of that and have protocol in place to make sure
Well,
that
true.
not only the safety of the people walking in, but our staff is,
Along with
That
that,
way as well.
is there a way if teachers is lost, that you can turn that
Absolutely.
off? Because I thought that you could do that too.
Well, I was
If
gonna
you know
say,
it's
the only true delay is the time from when the person realizes it was
It's the
lost
notification to you.
and calls me. In
That's
3
what I
minutes,
thought.
I can have that fob erased from the system that they can't get in anywhere.
Right.
Really, with our system, I can actually erase them so that they can't get in any doors, but it'll still show up that that the tag was used. So.
That they tried it.
In a way, yeah. In a way, if we know
good
someone's in the
security.
building trying to get in, I can call whoever and say, this person's at this door. I won't say real time, it's maybe a minute delay from when they use it to get to my computer.
But we also have cameras too. that would
But we also
identify
have
the person.
cameras, yes.
But I thought we shut them off, so
Yep.
I don't think that's a
Yep.
big danger there.
Nope, I agree. Thank you.
So no action required at this time. We just kind of want to start getting in front of everyone in case, hopefully we are successful with that grant application. If not, we'll bring it back to the committee for further conversation. Mr. Mann?
KPN, Keystone Purchasing Network, we started our fuel bids. Last Thursday, I had to give the amounts that I needed to use, that I wanted to use for the season. First, you just give them the amounts. Come April 29th at 9:30 is when they're actually gonna give us what everything costs. Within 24 hours, we have to get back to them and say yes or no as to what we're gonna use. So again, we have till April, but we just wanted to let everybody know that has started, being that it is such a short window when they do give out the bids till we get to pick.
Didn't we do something before where we kind of authorized you to accept the
Yes.
low amount previous to that, so we didn't have to be jumping through hoops at the last minute?
Yep.
And that's the way we worked around it, yeah, okay.
We just wanted to show you ahead of time. It's not until April that they're gonna come out with it, but we'll probably have it again next month, just to let everyone know it's coming up. And the last one is just an update on the baseball and softball permits. Mr. Hill. Oh, road salt. Yes, we got our last load of road salt for this winter, in the nick of time. Literally, we had our last truckload of salt on the truck for the last storm, and they delivered the next day, and we haven't had anything since, knock on wood. Again, that was already budgeted. It was already purchased. That was purchased from Greg last year already.
So there's no motion this time.
No.
Okay. Sounds good.
And the last one is our permits. Mr. Hill from ELA informed me that he set 2 sets of permits in, one on the 15th and one on the 16th. He said it'll be at least a month until we hear anything back from him. So if we don't hear anything after a month, then we should start worrying. But before that, there's nothing to worry about.
Wasn't it scheduled so that this would all be done before the baseball, softball season started?
Originally, yes,
Okay.
but then there were delays with the permitting process, first round. And now it's scheduled to happen at the end of baseball, softball season, so over the summer,
Okay.
and then hit the fall growing season for the new grass to be able to play in the spring of 2025.
Do you think even within the month to wait this long, that we'll still have enough time to procure all the supplies and get everything started in order to meet that time frame that
So,
if all goes as planned?
we have not received any messaging otherwise from ELA, engineering, or from our contact there. I can't think of his name right now.
Ernie.
Ernie. So we haven't received any of that messaging yet.
And that's it. Thank you for your time.
Any questions, board members? Hearing none, then we'll turn over to Mr. Hill, please, for our technology report.
Good evening, everybody.
The first items I have on there are we talked about this last month, just wanted to go over it again briefly. The 2024 E-rate projects, this would be for Category 2 projects. We are interested in replacing our firewall for that covers the security for the entire district. And we did if you remember from last month, we did a PEPA mini bid process for that, and our lowest proposal was Integra 1, and it came in at $66,209. Based on the E-rate funding, I'm estimating that we would have to pay around $42,000 of that cost, based on what's E-rateable and what's not E-rateable in that project. The contract for that would be contingent upon E-rate funding, and of course, if we don't get E-rate funding, we could then not go through with the project, or we would then have the option to pay for it out of pocket. I don't anticipate that we would not receive E-rate funding. I would think we'd get E-rate funding, but that's just an estimate that I have on there. The firewall that we have now was installed in 2018, so this would be like a 2024 project, so you're looking about 6 years the last one was put in, and that's about right for something of that type of equipment. Usually 6, 7 to 8 years, maybe max. So we would like to replace that firewall. So does anybody have any questions about that? And if not, I would like to put that on the board agenda for approval or for a vote Monday. Is that okay with all the board members? Okay.
Yep.
So we'll put that on the agenda for Monday. And the next project I have on there is the wireless, our wireless network, all of our wireless access points. Again, this would be throughout the entire district. We did a PEPA mini bid for that as well, and the lowest proposal we received there was Integra 1 again, and it came in at $213,133. It was the exact equipment that we specified. We had another vendor that bid, it was like almost $300,000, like 296 or something like that. So that was the difference. The estimated cost, we actually have more E-rateable dollars in this one. So my estimated cost for this one after E-rate funding is about $62,000 that we would actually have to pay out of that $213,000. Again, that can fluctuate. That's just an estimate at this point. And again, we could, I have it written in there that the contract is contingent upon E-rate funding. So if we don't receive E-rate funding, we could decide to say, oh, let's wait till next year and try again. I don't foresee that we would not get E-rate funding, but we would also have the option that we could just say, well, let's go with the project anyway, we want to get it replaced. And again, the wireless was installed again around that same time, was installed in 2018, so the wireless that we have here it's all like a wireless 5 network. We'd be going to a wireless 6E network, so it'd be a nice increase. And again, it was in for 6+ years at this point. And again, that's about the time where you start to look to replace that type of infrastructure. So does anybody have any questions about the wireless that we're looking at? Okay, and if there's no questions, then what I'd like to do is ask the board if we can put that on the agenda for Monday night for a vote.
Sure.
Okay, thank you. The next thing I have on here is T-Mobile Project 10 million. If you remember when we started with the COVID, one of the things we started sending all the devices home with all the students. We were doing that before, like at the 7th grade level up, but then we started doing it from kindergarten all the way up. We're sending devices home with the students. One of the things that we started doing is we started providing hotspots for our students in need, students that maybe don't have internet access at home. So we were actually using a few different vendors. We used a company called Kajit. We used those for a little while, and then then for a while we actually had 2. We also had T-Mobile, so we had some T-Mobile devices. We found that the T-Mobile devices worked a lot better. So right now that's what we have. We have T-Mobile devices. T-Mobile, that was all under the ESSER funds, so we were paying for that out of ESSER funds. This year I have it built into my budget. So I was talking to T-Mobile, and they have something called the Project 10 Million plan, where right now we're paying for a certain number of devices. So we only have, so many devices on hand at one time. They have a program that they have where they will provide free devices to us, and then we have flexibility. They have a free plan, They have I think it's 100 gigs per month, and then an unlimited plan. So they have 3 different levels. So what we did is we filled out an application with them, and they had like a little interview where we talked about our how many students get free reduced lunch, things like that, the demographics of our of our school district and all those things, kind of what we use our wireless for. They wanted to know, like, do we have a one-to-one initiative, all that stuff. Do the students take their devices home? So they asked a lot of questions. And what they did is, based on all that in our school profile, they said that we could qualify for 100 devices. So they would give us 100 devices for free, and they would all be on the free plan, but we could also split those up. So what we did is we looked at our numbers, and we decided we could put 70 of these devices, 70 of the 100 on a free plan, and then we could take the other 30 and put them on an unlimited plan, and that would cover our student population. Nice thing about this project, the project 10 million, is that it gives us that flexibility. We now have some extra devices that we didn't have on hand before, so when we get requests, we can give them out without trying to get another device in and use it. So it gives us a lot of flexibility. I think it's a really nice plan. And the nice thing about it is, too, you can move the devices between plans. So if we decide that 30 unlimited is too many, we can drop it down to 20, 25, or vice versa. We can, if we find that we have to increase it, we can increase it. So it gives us flexibility. And this plan, once we're approved for the plan, which we are, we just have to sign an agreement. It would be a 5-year agreement. So basically, we have those 100 devices. They're not charging us for them. And then we just decide how we want to distribute them each month on that plan, depending on a plan. So I like this plan because it gives us a lot of flexibility. We have been encouraging families to do they had something called the Affordable Connectivity Program, where families could sign up for a reduced internet cost. And we had a number of families that were going on that plan. We've actually had a few requests this year. I would say less than 5. It's been about a handful, maybe a little less, of families that were on that plan that said they can no longer afford the internet, and now they're coming asking, hey, can we have a hotspot? So we have seen that, and I think that this plan would give us that flexibility where if we see more families that are having trouble, that we have more hotspots available and they're ready to go. So again, it would be a 5-year agreement, and there's really no cost to us other than what our monthly fees are. And again, that monthly fee I did build into the technology budget this year. So does anybody have any questions about that?
Yeah, I do. T-Mobile, is the service good throughout our district?
Yes, what we have found is we had the Khajiits, they were on a different carrier. We found that the T-Mobile works a lot better in this district. We tested it a lot of places, and we've had really good success with the T-Mobiles. Yes, we do have very good coverage in this district.
My second question, I probably should know this because it's not a new question. When we give to each student
Like
for
a hotspot.
right? Does that allow the entire family to use that?
This does, yes. They are filtered, but it is per family. It is designed as a family hotspot. In fact, one of the rules to this program is we can only give one hotspot per family because they are supposed to use one hotspot per family. The Khajiits were different. Those were only one, you can only connect one student at a time. Only one person could connect at a time. So there was times where we had families that might have had 2 or 3 Khajiits in one household. Whereas this, we can provide one, and the one will cover everybody. But yes, they are, and they are allowed to use it. And part of the reasoning to that is that so parents have access as well for communication for educational purposes, because we, especially now with enabling or enacting a Canvas, one of the things we do there is we have the parents using Canvas too. So that gives the parent a way to communicate with the teacher and be involved in the educational process. So yes, so to answer your question, it's a long answer, but yes, families can connect and parents can connect as well.
I think it's good, but do we have like an application process that families can go through to, like, how do you determine who gets that?
Yeah, typically what we do is, it's usually the guidance counselors or principals usually come to the tech department and say, hey, a student requested a hotspot. and then we assign a hotspot to the student. We check them out. One of the things that T-Mobile does require is that we have like some type of a process to manage the devices and who has them. And what we do is we actually use those in our library system. We check it out to the student. We have their student IDs and we check it right out to the student so we know who's coming, where the device is, who has it. But yes, what we do is basically, usually it's anybody can request, so either a teacher, guidance counselor, or principal. Typically, it's a guidance counselor or principal comes to us and says the student needs access, and then we assign them the device. That's how we do it.
Cool.
Are there ways to, how is that monitored? So like, if the student's going to do student work through NLSD and whatever, but the parent chooses to go to a not appropriate site.
Well, they're filtered. So we have there will be a dashboard that T-Mobile has for us, and we can see the usage in there. And then it's also filtered because we have to for SIPA compliance for the Children Internet Protection Act. So we have it filtered as well. So they can, they'll have some freedoms there, but they're not going to be able to go to to bad sites, that we normally wouldn't allow in school. So it is filtered.
Okay, thank
But
you.
they still can use it, parents can use it for anything else they want to use it for.
To a certain, not anything, but I mean, they can use it somewhat, but it's going to be filtered to certain categories.
My
Yeah.
concern also is,
Yeah.
with that in mind, is the fact that, okay, my neighbor's kid has this one for free,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm paying for internet myself, so you know what, I'm gonna cancel my internet, I don't have it now, so I want one.
Right, and that's where, well, it is a hot spot, and one of the things is too, if you read the fine print, they can throttle it back as well. If they find that there's a lot of data going, even though it's unlimited data, there is fine print where they say we can throttle it back. And we can monitor the usage, so if we see a lot of usage on a particular item, we can throttle it back. And but what we would also do too is, one of the ideas is now that we have 3 plans, we didn't have this flexibility before. You could start them on the free plan, which is 100 gigs per year. If they need maybe 100, we can go to the middle plan, put them on 100 gigs per month, and we can kind of see where the usage is. Plus, it gives us flexibility with our tech department. A student maybe in Peters Elementary in kindergarten may not need the data that a high school student does that's taking like some type of a computer class where they maybe need more access. So it kind of gives us a little flexibility there too with the plans. So we can start them out on the cheaper plan and then kind of see where the data is, and then we can increase it or decrease it based on based on the usage. But yeah, those are all great concerns. Those are things we think about as well.
Okay.
Yeah. Any other questions?
Any questions at all, Mr.? Okay. If not, then we will adjourn our.
Well, we would like to put that on the board
Oh, yes,
agenda
yeah.
for Monday.
No problem.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
And we'll move into finance.
Good evening. I just had 3 talking points. Just updating again on the $67,000 that was excess cash resources. We are looking into purchasing a dishwasher with that at the high school. Still going back and forth, communicating with vendors to get updated quotes. We got quotes back over the summer, late summer, to apply for the food service equipment grant. So I just reached out to those same vendors to update quotes for us, and then eventually Chris and I will have to get together so he can throw his expertise out there and go line item by line item on what actually is needed and not, and all that fun stuff. Part of that too is submitting a capital expense request to get approval. Anything above 5,000, we have to do that for. So this would obviously be above that threshold. And the second thing I have on the agenda is just reminding everybody that Giant is running their Roundup at the Register program still. We are about at the midway point, and it goes through the end of February. And then sometime in March is when they usually email us with a total of what was donated to our program. And so participate in that at your local Giant. And then the third thing is staffing. We just recently had a total of 4 open positions within the last couple weeks, and we've been busy interviewing people. Thankfully, we had a lot of interest. There was 6 interviews total. Actually, it says 1 there, but 2 of the positions were already offered to people and they have accepted, which is great. So we're still working on filling the other 2 openings right now. So that's pretty much it. Anybody have any questions about anything?
Yeah, I just have one.
Yeah.
Are you allowed to like advertise that inside the Giant? I don't shop, my wife does. I mean, I'm guilty as charged, but I have never stepped into the Giant yet, to be quite honest with you. So, but are there signs telling people that, hey, you could do this?
It's when you do, like, so if you're in self-checkout, a message comes up at the
Okay.
end, hey, do you want to donate to your local food service institution? And then you can say yes and then do it that way. Or the cashier, if you're not in a self-checkout, they will ask you if you wanted to round
Okay.
up and donate.
As long as
There's
they're
no like
notified.
marketing. Yeah, I think because it's for all the local schools who are doing this, it's just one big like donation that they then divvy up amongst each of the schools in the area. So, and then I send out an email about it, you know, just getting the word out there that this is going on. I did that back in like December sometime, right coming back from the winter break. I didn't do it when we went out for winter break because then people would forget about it, but it was like that first week back from winter break that I announced it.
I think
So,
our school principals, Mr. Yeah, we include that same message on our newsletters, basically. So mine goes out every week, so I know James goes out, and I know you guys send stuff out. So the message is repeated over and over again.
And when you check out, you do get a choice to either round up or you could give your own if you'd rather
Yeah.
donate additional money.
Okay.
It's comes right up on the screen when you're checking out.
But I don't think it says Northern Lehigh. on it.
No, it doesn't.
Right.
No, it's not
your
specific.
local, yeah,
charity.
your local
Yeah,
food
yeah.
service.
Yes,
Yeah.
that's correct.
So then they take that money, like you said, they pull it together because there's multiple schools involved in those programs, and then
Yeah.
they split it.
Disperse it, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Nikki, is that just this Giant, or if you shop at any Giant, it's?
It's going on at all the Giants right now, and I'm not sure how they disperse it per se. Like, I know, like Saucon Valley, you know, the Giant out there, they disperse it amongst that region of schools somehow. But yeah, it's not like that. This Giant is just for Northern Lehigh, you know. So. But yeah, all the Giants are specifically doing for food service programs right now through the end of February.
Yeah. That's why it can be a little misleading, because you think it's here, Wallingport, that is strictly for us, but it's not.
Right.
And then the other concern, which I really don't know the answer to, is, well, then Giant uses that money and they make the donation, so they use that as a write-off.
Certainly.
So it's essentially, they're making a donation of which they,
Received.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
believe they match it though. So they match it up to a certain amount of money and then they make the donation back out. So whatever everyone donates
Yeah.
coming through the line, I think they match it.
Oh, okay.
okay. Otherwise, that would be a
Up
little
to a
shady.
certain.
Yeah. Or smart, depending on what side of the fence you are.
You're not wrong. I will say it was a significant donation last year, which really it goes directly towards our Backpack Buddies program. So it does do a lot of good locally, even though it may not be just local dollars that are coming in.
Right.
Or some of our local dollars may be going to a neighboring district. It does help our students.
Yeah.
Anything else? Alright, that's it for me.
Thank you, Mrs.
Yeah.
Fink. I know you want to go work on the
Yeah.
audit, so
Yeah.
thank you for your
Thank
time
you.
tonight. Yep.
All right, in the update, I updated everybody, last last month, you, allowed us, when you heard that Westmoreland Intermediate Unit is no longer doing our fraud checks, that we could, partner with Valencia for EP staff check. I completed that first process this, last week, and it went very successful. It was really a seamless process. And I worked through with them to address the people that popped up on the list, and was able to clear everybody out. And I have it set to run monthly, so there's no issues in me forgetting about it. It'll happen automatically. And next month, I'm going to sit with Jamie, who does our grants and stuff in the business office, and I'm going to train her how to do it. So through the process, then I can take it off my desk and give it to somebody in my office to do. But it was a very seamless process. Thank you for allowing us to do that. It really was easy. So. The next thing is preferred EAP. We have, that is our employee assistance program that the district has. The employee assistance program is up to be renewed. What we pay currently for that is $6.15 an employee is an administrative fee. So it costs us about $1,600, just under $1,600 a year. And what it allows is it allows employees to receive 3 50-minute consultations. So they could be going through anything, if they're having any kind of issues with marital problems or money, financial questions, or, anything like an employee may be having a problem with, they can talk to a consultant and work through their issues. The first 3 are paid by the district. On site there, it is $100. We do have employees who use it. I do not know who those employees are. All we get is a bill that says 3 employees, this much money. I have no idea what they're being seen for. It's all highly confidential. We just get billed the invoice. Also the administrative fee that we pay also allows us to receive some training and development programs. So supervisors and management training are provided annually. There are 2 additional workshops provided annually that we can choose from the website. And employees may also attend any preferred EAP training and development series at Lehigh Valley Hospital, Cedar Crest, or Muhlenberg at no additional cost. So there's a lot of things out there for our employees who are experiencing kind of mental health issues or anything and need that extra assistance. So if everybody is still in agreement with us continuing on with that service, I will put that process on the board agenda for approval Monday evening. Is everybody in agreement with that again?
I'm definitely in agreement. I just have a question.
Sure.
Is there also anything attached to our health insurance?
Yes.
That's separate from this?
Correct. But if they get 3 consultants with this, if then at that point in time they need to go anyplace else in further consultation, they will be referred to somewhere that takes our insurance card, and then our insurance would pick up from that point on.
Okay.
Our health insurance. Yep.
Thank you.
You're welcome. A couple months ago, I talked about Northampton County wanting to collect the 5% on collection fees for the delinquent real estate taxes. So I did hear probably about a week ago or so that they are backing off of that for the 22-23 delinquent taxes. So we're actually 2023 delinquent taxes that will be turning over in the next 2 weeks or so. But unsure where it's going to go after that. I said, what about following years? They are having, I believe Bethlehem is taking the lead on this with Northampton County and Portneuf. So I think they were having some meetings with some people down at Northampton County, trying to get them to understand that, we use this provider, collections, and, it's taking work off your plate. That's why you're not collecting the 5%. So we'll see where it's going to go, but currently right now for this year, we don't have to pay those fees. Washington Township, Sally Mance has been our faithful tax collector in our borough out there for many, many moons. She has retired. Washington Township will be appointing tomorrow evening their new tax collector. And at that point in time, then on Monday evening's board agenda will be the motion for us to also approve that tax collector to collect our real estate per capita taxes.
Talk about a thankless job.
Yes, that it is. Carbon Lehigh Intermediate Unit budget, Lehigh Carbon Community College, and LCTI budgets will all be on the board agenda for approval Monday night. They will be attached, the actual budgets will be attached in your board packets, so please look to review them. Just so everybody understands, LCTI is currently this year, we're going to pay $1,465,000 and change. That is an increase of $98,000, almost $100,000. And that does not include the academic center. The academic center currently is a 5-year rolling average, and we were supposed to pay roughly about $100,000 for the 14 students that we put there this year. However, I was in contact with Holly today, and we've been playing phone tag. So soon, I haven't been billed yet for this year. Next year, it tells me I only have to pay $23,000. The district only has to pay, but there's still 4 years worth of zeros rolled in there. So they need to figure out what we'll pay for the additional students that are going there next year, because it'll be 14 plus whatever we send there next year. So I'm working with LCTI until we get on that rolling 5-year
And that's
average.
because we've
Just to
increased our
clarify
students.
that, we currently have a cap at $100,000.
Correct. Correct.
So it doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be the current 14 plus more.
Right.
It's going to be however many we can fit within that
$100,000.
$100,000.
Correct. Sorry, yes,
It's okay.
that's correct. Yep. All right, so CLIU is a decrease of $104, and LCHI-C is a decrease of $4,676 this coming school year. Yeah, yay. Just keep in mind the IU budget is only the general operating budget, so that is not all the special programs for our students that are outplaced in those areas. That's all a different budget. Your audit report, I kind of distributed them to all the board members over the past couple of days. That will be on the board agenda for approval Monday evening as well. That will be for your approval for finalizing the audit as of June 30th, 2023. As you look through those books, if you have any questions, don't hesitate to give me a call. I can answer any questions you have. And then the last thing I have is Provident Energy. That is our provider that we use for our electricity. We are in a consortium. And they currently, our contract will expire June of 2025. They are currently developing the timeline. They want to go out to market to figure out what our costs will be in July of 2025. So the district will confirm our inclusion in that again if the board so desires, as soon as the timeline is developed. They are the company that we've been using for quite a few years now to go out and bid our consortium. We're in, I think, the IU. I think there's a lot of school districts in Lehigh County that all use Central Bucks? No, Central, I want to say Moreland, but that's from the other one. Yeah, yeah, CSIU, Central Susquehanna Intermediate Unit. Yes, that's who does the consortium bidding for our electricity costs. And that's all I have, if anybody has any questions.
No other questions? I will close the finance meeting and turn it over to education.
Okay, we'll open up the education meeting, and Dr. Stoker.
Thank you. Dr. Link, do you want me to? Yeah, if you don't mind.
Yes.
It's your chair.
Not sure.
Yeah,
Just want to turn. There we go. So we do have quite a few items on the education agenda this evening, but it should balance out with our policy agenda this evening. So the first one that we have on here is our annual data presentation debrief. I had requested that anyone who had questions on the annual data presentation submit those from the board presentation that we gave. So we did get some questions in on Friday I'm not sure if the board or anybody that's present this evening has any additional questions, but what we're looking to do is to take those back to the team, to talk through those questions and come back with some thorough answers for the committee, and we're looking to push that to March. So I don't know if anyone else has any other questions or would like to email those additional questions to us, but we're going to just take those as a team and debrief those further. Okay, any questions on that?
No, thank you.
Okay. All right, the next one is comprehensive planning. It's that time again to jump back into comprehensive planning. Our special education plan, that one comes up first, so I'm going to turn that over to Mrs. Dada.
Good evening, everyone. So just a brief timeline I wanted to talk about. This plan was actually just completed at the end of 22 because of COVID. It was pushed back, and then we had to kind of backtrack on our planning. So now we're actually moving forward on our planning, and that timeline is going to look like it is due May 1st, okay? But because of board meetings, that's going to mean that we will have to have the approval and have it all ready to go to you for March 11th, okay? Because we need 30 days to then post it to public comment. I am getting a committee together. I will be asking one of the board members to join then. Probably going to have a meeting at the middle of February, somewhere in there, just to go through the plan, explain everything, and look at what we're going to do looking forward for the next 4 years. Okay? Does anybody have any questions about the special ed plan?
Can you please add your notes to the
Yep.
timeline?
I will.
Thank you.
I will. Okay, and then we are going back to
Yep, are you good?
targeted. I thought you started, sorry.
No, you're okay. You're good with the special ed plan?
I am.
Okay.
Yeah, I will put them in.
All right. Are you going to go ahead and project that for us, Stephen? So those of you who have been around for a little while remember that we were in Targeted Support and Improvement, or TSI, a few years ago for 18-19 data. That was right before the pandemic. So we received that information right around December of 19, moving into January of 20. We have again been designated for targeted support and improvement. So we're going to talk through this, but some of you may have seen this before. So the Northern Lehigh School District has been designated for target support and improvement, or TSI, for its special education subgroup. This presentation provides more information on school improvement designation. Next slide. So in December, Dr. Link received notification from PDE indicating that a Northern Lehigh school received the TSI designation. And then on January 16th, Dr. Link, Mrs. Dada, Dr. Bally, Mr. Stroll, and I attended a mandatory virtual information session from the state on TSI. So that gave us more information about why we were being designated. Next slide. So what is TSI? What does this mean? So the Every Student Succeeds Act, or ESSA, which is our federal law, requires that each state identify schools for support and improvement, which they call annual meaningful differentiation. The TSI designation is just an early warning, which is assigned to schools in which performance by one or more student groups is at or below state established standards. Fall of 2019 was the first time that the designation was assigned to schools in PA, and it has picked up again post-pandemic. If you remember, last time in 2019 we were designated for special education at the high school, and it was for achievement in growth, and it was also for our career standards benchmark. We completely corrected the career standards benchmark. If you remember from this annual presentation we gave this year, every single building in the district was 100%. So we got ourselves out of that early risk factor. So again, we are back in this for different reasons this time. Next slide. So how is this determined? TSI designation occurs for a school in which one or more student groups, and then these are the criteria. So exhibits achievement at or below an annually determined level within one standard deviation of the statewide average achievement rate. This annual cut score is determined in consultation with the state's technical advisory committee. So this isn't like a number we're shooting for. This is something that's designated. They look at the results, and then there's certain benchmarks that we have to meet until we get to 2033, at which point everybody should be meeting goals. Number 2 shows risk for less than expected academic growth as described in CSI designation procedures. Specifically, the lower a school's proficiency rate, the more evidence of academic growth is needed to exempt the school from further evaluation for TSI. So if we're not achieving to a certain level, we need to show more growth to show that we're growing our students still to get them to eventually have that academic achievement. And the last one falls below statewide average performance on one or more substantially weighed academic or social or school quality student success indicators. Okay, next slide. So the N count for any of the subgroups is 20. So we have to have 20 students in order for a subgroup to even appear on our Future Ready PA index. There are some categories where we don't have that. For instance, we may have a building where we only have a few English learners. So we don't have an N count at 20. There's no data that will show up for that. It's not statistically significant without an N count of 20. So a school receives a TSI designation when a student group meets this achievement and growth profile in step 1 and falls below statewide average performance on, and these are the ones that the Pennsylvania Department of Education has chosen and submitted to the federal government in their plan. So A is either one or both ESSA required indicators, so graduation rate and English learner proficiency, or B, both state selected indicators, regular attendance and career standards benchmark. And you'll see that there are a few within here that we meet. Okay? At this point, I'm going to hand this over to Mrs. Dotto. She's going to now go into our specific data that will tell you more information.
Okay, so the 2 areas that we were designated in is achievement for math and ELA combined. So the data that they used was 22-23 school year. Okay, our cut score is 30.91. Our math was 5.3 and our ELA was 10, so that gave us a combined of 7.69. Remember, these are only students with special needs. That is in the count. The second area that we need to look at is graduation rate for the 4th and the 5th year cohort. Okay, so they use 21-22 data for that. Cutoff is 83.34. Our 4-year, as you can see, is 67.2%. Our 5-year cohort is 78.3%, and then the combined is 77.27. Now, we just have to remember one thing about the graduation cohort, okay? That 4 or 5 year is exactly that. 9, 10, 11, 12 is the 4-year. And then if a student stays for 1 year, that's your 5-year cohort. However, most of our students that are in, like, let's say a life skills class, an MDSB class, or sometimes emotional support, but mostly those MDSB classes are here till 22 now, as the state has extended it from 21 to 22 years. So a typical 9th grader comes in at, I don't know, 14. So you have the 14, 15, 16, 17-year-old, maybe 18-year-old is in our 5th 5-year cohort. We have 19, 20, 21, and now 22. So those students that stay count against us for this graduation cohort.
Just to kind of put that in perspective a little bit more, that is an IEP team decision of which the parents and guardians are members. We want to serve our students well because we're part of that decision as well. We are not saying you need to move on because the federal law says they can stay and continue to receive specially designed instruction to meet their needs. But now the state's saying you have to let them stay, but if they stay, we're going to ding you.
Can I just add that I did reach out to the state and said this is unfair because you have a law that says one thing and another law that says another. And they said when they did apply to the federal government that they were rejected for that information. They just said, we're not approving your ESSA plan, you need to get your kids to graduate.
So it doesn't mean that we don't have some students that might drop out, and that's where we're going to focus most of our energy on, because that's where hopefully we can make some of the difference. Unfortunately now, next year's data will be the 22-23 for graduation, which is already set. That data's already in. Either the student graduated within the 4-year cohort or the 5-year cohort. So next year, are we going to get out of it? We will see, but there's not much we can do right now for that data. We are going to work on the other things, as far as achievement goes, and we're also going to still work on some of those students that might drop out. Okay. Do you have any questions about that? Yes.
Yeah, just a quick one, just so I understand what I'm looking at there. It says cut score 30.91, so if you're below 30.91, you're designated.
Proficient.
And we're at 7.69.
Right. Right. Now, that's the percentage, right? The percentage of students, though, that have special needs.
So the cut
That are
score
not-
is the cut score is what the state says we have to meet. And then there are levels of that. So if we're not meeting that, but our growth is in a certain spot, then you may or may not fall into this. We did not meet the achievement, but we also didn't have the growth that needed to be there as well. But we're only identified for the achievement part. It's a complicated identification system. It really is.
I believe it's not a number I want to jump up and shout about. I don't know how you calculate it, but I don't know.
Yeah, for the
I'll be
presentation, we
quiet.
try to simplify it by if you didn't meet the number, you're identified, but there's a lot more to it.
Does that also include some of what you just talked about prior of those individuals who are staying longer than a 4 or 5 year, and they're actually affecting this achievement growth also?
It also affects with the PASA, so that's another part of it, is only 1% can actually be counted towards this, that take the PASA, and we're currently at 1.8, okay, that I always have to put a waiver in for. Those are the students that are taking that alternative because they're in an MDS or have, intellectual disabilities.
So if a student is above the 1%, so like let's say we have 1.5% of our students that took the PASA, but we're only allowed to have 1%. That extra 0.5% of the population who took that, even if they passed it, are just deemed to not have passed it because we went over the percentage that were allowed.
That math isn't nothing.
Exactly.
Math isn't in the achievement section. The other question I have, is this for all Northern Lehigh students, even if they're in a Northern Lehigh classroom and outplaced, like at a CLIU or something? This is encompassing all students that belong to the Northern Lehigh School District. Okay.
Well, this is just the high school. Only the high school.
Sure,
can
in the high school
identify.
age range, yes.
Yes. Yep.
But it would include, like, if one of our students was outplaced at an IU classroom, their numbers would be in this number.
If they're 9 to 12.
Correct. Thank you.
So just one more thing, I want to kind of go back to the PASA, which is the alternate state assessment. Typically performing students take the PSSA, PASAs, those that are the most significantly cognitively impaired. Every year, there's something called a Penn Data Report. If you track that over time, is that in here?
No.
No.
Oh.
Sorry.
If you track that over time, that 1% cap does not adjust for that in the state of Pennsylvania. They're up to about 20% of children are identified with IEPs. Okay, so that number is continuing to grow, but they are not adjusting the cap at the same ratio. They're saying, we understand you have more children with special needs, but the number is the number. So again, they're giving us the data. They're recognizing that the number of children with significant academic delays, because this is focusing on academics here, continues to grow. But they're saying you cannot flex that 1% to 1.5% or 2%. For us, we're talking about single-digit kids. So every single kid makes a significant impact on our 1%.
I'll just add that for the graduation 4 and 5 year cohort, we won't talk about it tonight, but we already looked at what our 22-23 data shows. if we don't count students that stay till they're 21, 22, we significantly score above the 83.34. It's just when we can let those students, that by their IEP are allowed to stay, that we don't meet that requirement.
And a lot of our students with significant needs, a lot of people don't know that those students do not qualify for outside services after they graduate until 21 or 22. So they can't get a waiver, they can't get any help or assistance from the county or the state until they turn 21 or 22. So a lot of people don't realize that those students, if they're not going to school, they have no help. The families have no help until they reach that age. Anybody have any more questions on this? I know.
Next.
Okay, so went to the IU to see what does this look like for the state for our IU. And as you can see, the high school, this is how many schools, 164 schools in the state of Pennsylvania were now in the TSI. Right. And you can see just for the IU 21, 7 high schools in IU 21. I don't even know how many high schools would be in IU 21.
14.
Okay, so half of them are in TSI. And you can see the rest of those for the whole state.
I don't think there is, I think there's
14 districts, yeah.
14 districts.
More high schools.
Because like
high schools.
Allentown
Yeah.
would have more.
They have multiple.
But it's just IU 20, so it's
So it's not district.
9,
that's-
10, because Allentown has 2, everyone else has 1, so what's that, 12? And it does not count like Central Catholic, it doesn't count the parochial or private
Right.
schools. So over half of the high schools in
RIU.
IU 21 have been identified as a TSI designation.
For different reasons, but I kind of pulled them at one of our meetings as well, and most of them were for special education.
Any questions about that?
So I have the specific data here, I'll just say that 6 of the 7 were identified for students receiving special need. Okay, so in the state, 341 high schools were identified as having the TSI designation because, I don't want to say because of children with special needs, but because of it's not their fault, okay, that's what I'm trying to say, but because of how they performed on the assessment.
Steve, can you go to the next one, because that's what Dr. Lynch was talking about. So here is the ones that were identified with students with special needs. 341 in Pennsylvania and 6 in the IU. That's a significant amount. Okay, anybody have any questions about that? Okay, where are we going? What's happening next, Steve?
What happens next? That's me.
Oh, good.
So we approve, implement, and assess a plan for improvement. The data will be rerun at the end of the 23-24 school year. I think some of that was already shared. And if we no longer qualify for this designation, we'll be released. If we do not improve, then we will receive another designation or stay the same. Next slide, please, Steve. So the planning requirements, as laid out within the Future Ready Comprehensive Planning Portal, we start with the steering committee. The people who are involved in the steering committee are the principal, the board members, and other administrators, staff members, parents, students, and community partners. Within those staff members, we also look to some of our teachers within the education department at the high school as well. Next slide, please. The planning requirements, step-by-step actions as far, laid out within the Future Ready Comprehensive Planning Portal are as follows. The ready part would be preparing a plan. So the profile and plan is essentials, any plan essentials. We create a steering committee, which we've started to do that already. We also create a vision for learning. The set action plan would be complete needs of assessment. So we take a look at our Future Ready PA Index data. We also analyze student performance data. We take a look at conditions for leadership, teaching, and learning, and also a summary of strengths and challenges that we would address. The final action plan component would be the go. So we would create the action plans. We analyze the strengths and challenges. We set goals. We implement the action plan, expenditure tables, and also professional development. Next slide, please. So just a little bit of a timeline of upcoming approvals and final submission. TSI plans will open February 10th in the Future Ready Comprehensive Planning Portal. Training and support from the IU is ongoing from February through May. The subsequent slide after this has that information on it. We would need board approval when we have a plan and board affirmation statements. June 30th, 2024, we have the submission button opens, and then August 31st, 2024, or September 1st, 2024 for Title I schools. It's due to the Pennsylvania Department of Education. Any questions so far?
Would that timeline require the 30-day posting, kind of like we do the comprehensive plan now? Or
So we typically
would that
do
get
that. Yeah, we typically do that. The board has to sign off that it was approved at a board meeting, but we typically always post with all of our components.
So if you hit August 31st, July, so we'll, June meeting, we would see a plan, is that?
Yeah, we
kind of
hope to
the-
be done earlier than the end of the school year, because we have to start to implement these things.
Sounds good, thank you.
Yep. Stephen, next slide. So as Mr. Stroll said, this is, these are the PD sessions that are targeted towards the TSI designation. So we have a core team of people in our district that will be participating in these sessions. February 12th, March 13th, April 18th, and May 7th, and this is supposed to help us, guide us through the plan. So the first one on February 12th will be planting the seeds of understanding, gathering data and perspectives. March 13th, nurturing the roots of prioritization, so looking at the root cause. April 18th would be evidence-based strategies and creating those SMART goals. And then May 7th would be communicating and implementing the plan. And again, this within that timeline for the overall TSI plan. All right, next slide. Any questions on that? Okay. I want to thank Mr. Fedorcha too. He's going to sit on our TSI committee as one of the board members. If there's anyone else interested in participating, please let us know. We'll be getting some dates out once we start to go through the process with the IU. Okay. Great. Stephen, can you give me control back over here? Okay. All right. The next thing that we have on here is the comprehensive planning kickoff. So it's again time for our overall comprehensive plan. We're looking to start with forming our steering committee in January. Then we're looking to start from February through the end of this school year, looking at our current goals, our progress towards those goals, and then diving into some of those components like our mission, our values, looking to dive into the data and form our new goals moving forward for the next period of time. We'll break for the summer, we'll come back, and then in the fall through the winter, we would be looking to go through each of our plans. We're not required to go through each of them, but unfortunately or fortunately, there are components that are changing in all of those plans because there's been so much law passed in the state. So all of those plans are going to be impacted. So we'll look at our plan for induction, our professional development plan, our student services plan, and our gifted plan. Some of those will just need minor tweaks. Some of them will need a good deal of an overhaul. Hopefully we'll finish everything and leave ourselves a buffer into December. January, we'd be beginning to post that for 28 days, hopefully approve it through the Education Committee and board meeting in February 10th. And then March, it would be due at the end of March of 2025. So that's our timeline for the comprehensive plan. And Mr. Kern, I don't know,
I'm good.
are you a positive?
Sorry.
And so, that's okay. And so Mr. Kern will be sitting on our comprehensive planning committee. Thank you, Mr. Kern, for doing that, and he did that for us last time as well. So we look forward to that. Again, if there are any other board members that would like to join that process, you're certainly welcome to do that, but that's essentially our timeline for that. Okay, any questions on any of those? Okay. The next one we have is the National Conference on Science Education. So we are requesting the board's support in sending Mrs. Wilder, who's here this evening, to the National Science Teachers Association Conference to guide her work supporting teachers in the shifts to the STEEL standards. As Mr. Pine has shared in board updates over the past month, Pennsylvania is among the last states to adopt the NGSS standards. Making this opportunity to attend a national conference especially valuable in this case. So to offset the cost, Mrs. Wilder applied for a scholarship that covers the registration and has been awarded the conference. We are looking to provide the district financial support to cover travel and lodging costs. And then obviously Mrs. Wilder is here this evening, so I'm going to have things turned over to her if you'd like to share any information on that conference.
Sure, so just a couple of things about this conference. Obviously you have all the numbers and dates and stuff up there. But a couple unique things is this isn't just science at the Pennsylvania level, it's science at the national level, moving towards those NGSS standards, or as PA calls them, STEEL standards. They're very closely aligned. Colorado is actually one of the first states to adopt it many years ago, so being able to attend such a conference in a state that has been doing this successfully for quite a few years would be absolutely beneficial to help our district with this transition into these standards. Along with that, I'd have the opportunity to collaborate with others who are in the same sort of role that I am with this transition period, so that I can bring back the best practices, resources, products, information back to our teachers, so that from K to 12 we can have a succinct science program that's meeting these performance expectations for our students to be successful in this skills transformation.
Does anybody have any questions on that conference?
Do it, let's go.
Yeah, I do. I'm trying to find the terminology, because I actually went on the website and I was looking at the sessions that were available.
Sure.
And I'm going to say it wrong. That's why I was looking for it. A trifold assessment? No, I'm saying it wrong. I'll find it.
I think what you're looking for is trifold assessment or three-dimensional
That's
assessment.
it. There you go. Thank you.
So the NGSS standards and STEEL standards, the difference between these standards and the 2009 standards is that we aren't just looking at what students can do by the end of this grade anymore. We're looking at, can these students think like scientists? Can they plan and conduct an investigation? Can they collect and analyze data? And the three dimensions of a standard apply to that science and engineering practice, the cross-cutting concept, and the disciplinary core idea, which are those three pieces of it.
Okay.
So your science and your engineering practice are going to be the actual scientific practices that students can do. Can they look at a problem and figure out what that problem is to figure out a question? From that question, can they form an experiment? From that experiment, can they collect and analyze data and form a logical conclusion? So that's your science and engineering practices. The disciplinary core idea is all of the content. So physical science, life science, earth and space science are your broad categories for that, but then like biology, physics, all of that is like these subcategories. And then the cross-cutting concepts are how your disciplinary core ideas and your science and engineering practices fold together. So things like patterns, what are some other ones? I'm blanking right now. Like scope and sequencing, like mathematical computation. All of those are cross science, regardless of what science you're learning. So you're doing all those things in your 9th grade, 10th grade, 11th grade, 12th grade class, as well as K through 8. So that's what three-dimensional stands for. I'm sorry if that was long-winded.
That was easy for you to say.
It just
But
means
thank you.
We're looking more broadly than can a student answer this question about cells.
Right, correct.
Can you repeat that?
Absolutely.
No, I read that. had no idea, so I was just curious exactly what that was.
Yeah, I've been actually able to look at quite a few of the sessions, and all of the ones that I have sort of tried to look at where I could go are all NGSS based, with a very large portion of them being elementary based, which would be especially useful for our district, so that I could focus a lot of my energy on helping those elementary teachers, like I think I talked about the last time I was here, for that comfortability teaching science, as well as some best practices and resources that they have, which as a secondary teacher and science teacher, like I know my content and I know my kids, but it would be absolutely useful for our elementary teachers for me to have this sort of training that I can bring back to them as well.
Yeah, it's a change in philosophy as well. You know, instead of give and get and spit it back out to you, I have to figure, there's a lot of metacognitive thinking that goes on.
That's what I would say, you have to let them do their
Right.
Learning by doing, not doing to learn.
And that's STEAM as well, so it's all the same kind of concepts.
Absolutely.
Good. Thank you.
So do we have the ability from the board members present this evening to move this to the board meeting next Monday for a vote?
After that answer, yes.
Dr. Stoker, I have a question.
Yep.
You had made mention that she got a registration scholarship.
Yep.
So the $465 listed here, is that our portion after the scholarship?
Abby, can you address that?
That I already paid for I already have the scholarship, so that is the only portion that it wouldn't be from the district.
So then the $465 would come off the $1685?
No,
I think
because
the
you
No.
add them together.
Oh, okay.
Travel
Adding
dollars,
those two
yeah.
together. Got it. Okay.
Thank you for going out and being proactive to try to find something to help our district. And I think by getting the scholarship and going out and bringing some of this information back will be really helpful. So thanks for taking the lead on it.
Absolutely, thank you.
I'd like to just quickly compliment Ms. Weiler. She has quickly become a leader in the science department in Northern Lehigh. And you can see she's looking to support not just the high school, but the elementary level, the middle school and the high school level to prepare students for life after high school. So thank you, and thank you to the school board for hiring Ms. Weiler.
I'm just excited that it's hands-on learning. I mean, finally doing something,
Absolutely.
just instead of seeing it, so it's good.
Okay. The next part, we're going to roll into some of the grants. We've been talking a little bit about these grants in different places, so I just want to bring it all together and go through and run through all of these grants. So PCCD released 3 grants that are all due by the end of February, and I'll talk about those in a moment. And then also Highmark Foundation came out with the school grants program that they just released. So lots of grants coming up this month and into next month. So the first one is a PCCD School Safety and Security grant. That is $35,000. That is in law. We have the ability only to get that amount. It's based, I think, on the 21-22 school student count that we had, our ADMs. So for a school of our size, it's $35,000. The funding period runs from January of this year through December of 2025, so it's for 2 years. And we're looking to continue to fund our SPO's salary out of that. So we've been very lucky that to date we have only paid for our chief out of the school district budget. Everything else has been paid for out of grants, and we're trying to continue that process as much as we can. So we'll continue to pay some of our SPO salary out of that, salary and benefits. The next, and we submitted that one on Friday. The next one is the PCCD School Mental Health Grant. This one has a few more components of what we have to put together in order to submit, so hopefully we're looking to submit this one by the end of this week. This one is $119,849. This one, again, is based on a funding formula that the state came up with, and that's what Northern Lehigh can get. The funding period is exactly the same. It's 2 years, starting this January, going through December of 2025. We are looking to fund or to continue to fund our social worker out of this. Again, we haven't had to pay for our social worker from the district budget either. We've been able to fund that out of grants as well. So we're looking to continue to pay the social worker out of that. There's also some tier 1 things we may need to address, but we are doing our assessment currently to go through all of those areas and make sure that we meet all of the tier 1 standards. So we may have to put some other things in here that are smaller, but that's kind of where the most of the money will go. Again, we're shooting for the end of this week to submit that one. The next one is the PCCD competitive grant. That's $450,000. What happens with this one is, again, we have to meet the Tier 1 criteria. This can be submitted for safety and for the mental health side of things. PCCD expects that they will get together in April at their meeting and approve all of the grants that they're going to approve for the competitive. If that happens, then the funding period would be May 1st of 2024 through April 30th of 2026. If for some reason they don't approve them at that point, it would begin the next day after they do approve them. Again, this is focused on level 1 baseline criteria. There were baseline criteria for both safety and mental health in 2021. They did update those for 2023. And there's a long list of comprehensive list of funding categories. And then there's a couple things that you can't spend the money on. So that is published out there, and we can actually link it to here if you'd like to read more on that. But right now we're going through and trying to determine all of the areas in the district that we would like to continue to fund. So we don't have a comprehensive overview of those yet, but we are putting those together. Again, that grant is due by the end of the month, so we're shooting for about the 23rd to try to submit that in case we need a couple days padding. Any questions on the PCCD grants? The last one is the Highmark Foundation School Grants Program. This one, for the most part, is up to $7,500. There are some areas that are a little bit smaller within there, but there are funding areas for physical health, school-based health, and social health. Just because of the other grants being more pressing right now, I did share this grant with our school nurses and some of our other district staff to ask if there are any funding priorities in this area, get some feedback, and then we'll start to dive into this one. This one is due a little bit later in the spring, so we'll kind of tackle this one once we get those other ones submitted. All right, any questions on that? All right, we'll jump into the curriculum guides and program of study. So we'll start first with the middle school. Mr. Hauser.
Thank you, Dr. Stoker. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for the time tonight. The middle school revisions to the curriculum guide are not very expansive. I'm not going to go through all the little commas and periods and phrasing. Those are kind of throughout, and you'll see those. I would just draw your attention first to page number 6. There we go. On the very top there, you're in a science description. Oh, too far.
Sorry.
Right there. There we go. All we did there was just do some phrasing to make the description more reflective of the STEEL standards so that we're starting to see that common language come into our course descriptions. It's minor, but it's important. Again, just common language for all stakeholders. Immediately below that, you'll see the most significant revision to the curriculum guide. A little bit on that page, and Mr. Haas, if you could scroll down a little bit into page 7, or Dr. Stoker, are you controlling? I'm sorry.
That's great.
So what we've done, this is part of the kind of refinement process to our master schedule. As you all know, we are implementing a brand new master schedule at the middle school. We are refining a few things just as far as how time is used. Presently, we differentiate between what we call the goal team period and our Inspire and Brilliant Pathways period. One more for benchmarking, study skills, getting help in the classroom, what used to be our flex period, and then the other more for career education, positive behavior support, essential skills, and building our partnership with CFES. What we've been finding as the year goes on is that there's a lot of overlap between those. So instead of having 2 different things to look at and then have 2 different things to schedule and 2 different buttons to click, we're just going to streamline that into one course and merge the descriptions. So we did that for both 7th and 8th grade. The 8th grade version of that will be on page number 10 into page 11. And that exhausts the revisions to the middle school curriculum guide. I'll take any questions. Mr. Crispin?
No real questions, but congratulations on your award that you thought you did not get.
Yes. Yes. So I was informed last summer that Mrs. Texter of the Center for Humanistic Change, who's our liaison to the Student Assistance Program, had nominated Northern Lehigh Middle School to be Pennsylvania's most distinguished student assistance team. That's across the state, in all secondary schools, grades 7 to 12. And she told me I could expect to hear something by December, and December rolls around, I didn't hear anything, she didn't hear anything. I went on their website and I found a picture of a different school, and I thought, okay, it wasn't our year, but congratulations to them, and I put out a big statement how I'm still proud. And then the next month I got a call, hey, we're a little late, you won. So I had seen the wrong year, so we did get honored as Pennsylvania's most distinguished SAP team, which we are incredibly proud. The team does a phenomenal job, and we'll be attending an awards dinner in February, and I'll be going to their conference with board approval at the end of the month. So thank you for that, I appreciate it.
Okay. Do we have the ability from the board members present to move the curriculum guide for the middle school to the board for Monday for a vote?
Sure.
Okay. I just want to let you know that all of our schools across the district are working with a school scheduling expert, Dr. Reddig. He is scheduled to come back again in February and then again in March, I believe it is, May. I don't have the dates with me. Maybe it's March and May. And work with our principals again.